Joystick Show. Aloha and welcome to the Joystick Show, a podcast where three friends from high school in Hawaii get together every week to chat about the latest things we've watched, read, and played. I'm your co-host Thomas, and I'm joined by the smoothest co-host, Silky Scott.
How's it?
And today we have a very special guest. I'm honored to call him a friend. He does so much. He hosts multiple shows, including The Welcome Party. He owns his own business, which is a content creator consulting company called Intermyth, and hosts about like 3 to 5 to 7 bajillion panels every con that I'm at. JPG, what's going on, brother? How are you doing today?
Dude, thank you so much for having me, man. I had a ton of fun with you at WonderCon. Thanks again for connecting.
Oh, of course, man. And yeah, you literally are like the mayor when it comes to cons. Every time I see you, it's like, everybody. You got me way too drunk, and maybe I, helped do the same. I don't know, but it was a lot of fun.
You definitely help do the same. With conventions, it's always a work hard, play hard atmosphere. So I appreciate being able to keep up with you.
Dude. Yeah, I was just trying to keep up with you. Let's be real. But to start off, we got a question because I don't really know your true geek origin story. So what is the first obscure geek obsession that you can remember?
Oh, God, that's such a good question. Wow, you're really firing it off at the
yeah. Sorry, we come in with the heavy hitters right off the bat.
So I would have to say, when I was around 5 or 6 years old, the very first season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers had released, and so the Red Ranger. So the J in JPG stands for Jason, and the Red Ranger, the very first Red Ranger for Power Rangers as an American series, was also named Jason.
Oh yeah,
and it is the fact that he had the same name has dictated an embarrassing amount of my life. So it was just one of these things where I'm like, okay, well, now I'm expected to be a leader.
Right.
Now I'm expected to have a voice for other people. I'm expected to make sure that I'm standing up for others.
Does that mean that I was meant to be a rebel because my name's Thomas? So it also like Tommy?
100%. 100%. Yes, that's exactly what it meant. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Also, the one of my friends, his little Korean grandma down the street would always go, Tommy, I got the rice and nori for you, and it always stuck with me. So I always just remember that, and that also made me like the white. I think at the time it was a Green Ranger though. So
yeah, Green Ranger.
Oh yes, my gosh, that brings me right back to being a little kid.
Do you prefer Thomas or Tommy then?
Ooh, definitely not Tommy. That's cringe mode all the way.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Wait, and then Scott, is there anybody in pop culture that's named after you?
I was just thinking that of you're talking about the show you got into when you were young, and you could identify your name. I'm like, and if my name was Michelangelo, I would have thought I was going to be like a Ninja Turtle or something. That was probably my first geek thing I got into. But yeah, I'm trying to think back. I don't think there's really anything with the name Scott in it.
Not till Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, okay. That's way later. Yeah, I was an adult by then, but
I'm gonna need to look this up now because I'm sure audience members are just gonna be yelling.
yeah. There's probably one going over my head. And I'm like, yeah, of course.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. How do you not remember
totally.
This? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there's some DC Marvel character right now. Someone's yelling at me like, how do you know?
Oh God, Scott Summers. Cyclops.
Oh, there we go.
Duh. And I'm the biggest Scott Summers fan. Yeah. I'm the biggest Cyclops fan.
Cyclops has always been right, and nobody can tell me differently.
There you go. Are you part of the Reddit group Cyclops is right? Because I am.
No.
Is it really?
I think I just always thought that. I'm a big fan of the Boy Scout characters.
Me too.
So Cyclops always got him.
Me too. I liked Leo. I liked Jason from the Power Rangers. I liked all of those kind of leader guys because I'm the responsibility of leadership, being the oldest brother, oldest cousin, and all that stuff, yada yada. But that seems that was your geek awakening, you'd say, or where did you first know all right, I think I'm a geek, I'm into this nerdy stuff.
So I wouldn't. It's tough for me to say that Power Rangers was my geeky awakening, right? Because I think what my geeky awakening was Mr. Rogers.
Oh, that's Actually, sweet.
So Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was the one that like really opened me up to, oh my God, TV is amazing, right? And so, I come from a household where it was mostly single mom. So when that happens and when you're around our age, right, like TV is the one who raised
same
you at
here.
that point, right? And so I would really say that like my real gateway into just pop culture in general is comic books, because comic books was actually how I learned how to.
Wow.
And yeah, so I learned how to read a little bit later than most kids our age, and it was one of these things where my mom knew that I was really obsessed with looking at comic books. And I would have my older brother and a family friend who I consider a brother as well. I would ask them to read it to me, and she got wise to it.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Hey, I will buy you a comic as long as you read it to me."
Nice.
Oh, that's cool.
And that was eye opening.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, and so comic books I remember having to work in the yard for hours to earn my first couple bucks in order to buy a Spider Boy #1 from Amalgam Comics,
Yeah.
when they did that Marvel and DC
Oh my
crossover
gosh.
where they combined the characters.
It's
you know,
crazy
and
Drake's not here
and
because he would flip out. That's like his favorite thing in the world. He's like,
oh my
all
God,
about
I'm
that.
I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. Tell Drake, everybody in the chat, like everybody in the audience, tell Drake that he missed out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he missed his shot to talk about Amalgam Comics and all that stuff that he really, really loves for sure. I know. There's actually a funny story like that I've told here before, but like we used to donate cans because like I couldn't bring them to the recycle place, and I was like a little kid, so we'd put all the cans and bottles together, and I would take it to this guy down the street. And I would just drop it off because I knew he was recycling it. And one day he was like, "Oh, I'll take you to get something." And I was a little kid. I was like, "Oh, sweet. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go to the store." I might have been like 8 years old. This sounds like it's going to become sketchy, but truthfully, like,
yeah, right.
Good neighbor though, right?
No, totally.
Okay.
It sounds like it was.
This was completely
It
wholesome.
was actually. It was probably like the 1 in a million time that it actually went really well. But he took me to the local grocery shop or grocery store back when they had racks of comic books. And so I grabbed like a little sleeve of Oreos, but then I saw the comic books and I was like, "Hey, can I get one of these too?" And he was like, yeah. So I got a sleeve of Oreos and an X-Men comic. And I was just like, yeah. I come home, my mom's freaking out. She's like, "What happened to you?" I'm like, "Oh, the recycle guy took me to get comics and cookies." And she was like, "What are you doing? Like, you can't do that." But it turned out completely fine. But those are the days. Those are the days. Scott, do you got the next one fired up?
Yeah, okay. So we talked a bit about your origin story. Let's fast forward to today. We know you are the host of the Welcome Party and Tabletop News, among other things. If your real life skills were converted into D&D stats, what would your lowest stat be and your highest?
My lowest stat would be intelligence.
Come on. Yeah, right.
And I think my highest stat would probably be charisma. Mostly because as a kid, I very like there was no way that I was going to be physically imposing, you know.
I'm scared of you now.
Oh no, I'm see Thomas knows this because we know each other in real life. I'm about 3'8" on a good day.
No.
But I would say, with I say intelligence jokingly, but I also think back to my just like my learning process as a kid, right? And it was I was slower to get things. I was slower to understand things. I learned things a lot later. But it's a process that I really appreciate, right? As opposed to with charisma, I had to learn how to talk myself into and out of things as fast as I possibly could, right? Because when you don't have those strength modifiers, right? When you don't have the agility modifiers, right? Like you have to learn how to talk your way into and out of things. That is a very good question. I got one for y'all though.
Oh shoot!
All right.
Okay, real quick, can I make one comment?
Please,
dude. I should have said this before. If I could speak as well as you and be as social as you, I would have taken every learning disability because you're amazing now. Like everything has paid off so damn well. Like Yeah, I just want to speak half as good as you, and then
I know.
it'll be worth it.
I wish I
Oh,
started reading
man.
comics like earlier.
Yeah, I wish my mom read me more comics.
Yeah, I
okay.
mean, what's going on? I'm gonna talk to my mom about this.
Yeah.
Oh God, we're recording this right before Mother's Day too, so now I have two dudes just mad at their moms
Yeah.
right now.
We're just gonna question them strongly, okay?
Yeah.
We're just gonna be like, what happened here, Bob?
Gosh.
Okay, I'd be a better speaker.
No, okay, so like I think like you had mentioned tabletop news, Scott. Thank you so much for
Mhm.
that. This was a show that was kickstarted last year, and I was lucky enough to be cast as one of the hosts for this show, and we did 10 episodes. I was on 4 of them. I loved the experience. It was so beautiful. But tabletop RPGs, I would say if comic books are my first love, tabletop RPGs are my second.
Okay.
And I would say the one thing that I always like to ask is like, if y'all played D&D before, or any tabletop role playing games?
Yeah, I'm in a campaign right now with my friends.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and
Okay.
he never.
And then Thomas, do you
He
at
never
least
invited me.
do you at least know a little bit about it?
I
Do you
do.
at least know a
Yes,
little
yes,
bit?
because of
Okay.
Scott
Okay.
and because of Critical Role and like Vox Machina and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so if you were just like isekai'd into like one of these worlds, what would your class be? Like what would your role be?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think I really like half animal, half like animal stuff. Did I say half animal, half animal? Like
Oh,
half
okay,
human
so, like-
stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a
So like
werewolf.
you'd be like probably like a druid, or a
druid.
werewolf or something like
Yeah.
that. I like that, man. I like it, right?
Yeah.
Very self-reliant.
Oh,
Very much like have the magic to handle any situation. I love that,
Damn.
dude. It's a good
wow,
choice.
thank you. Oh man, I feel so good about my choice. I need to make this character now.
Yeah. Well, probably along the lines of what my character is now. Like, I've thought about when we were planning out a character, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna like maybe go dark, maybe like be
Yeah.
evil. But then like I always go back to being like this good guy, like just because like it's the easy way to do it. So my guy's like a half lion, half man. It's funny you mentioned that.
Oh,
so
what?
Leonin,
Oh,
My idea.
and he's just like he can't help but like be good. So
Nice.
yeah.
and so like do you know what class you're playing right now in it? Or like do you know if it's like a paladin, a warlock,
Yeah,
a
it's
wizard,
a paladin.
a
See,
ranger?
oh man, my friends
paladin.
might kick me. They're like so into D&D, and they invited me in, and every week they get pissed off at me because I don't know as much as they do. In a very friendly way, they're like, Scott, you got to know your roles. Like, yeah,
Oh
you know.
yeah. Well,
It's
with a
embarrassing.
paladin. So
Yeah.
paladin is one of my favorite classes in Dungeons and Dragons, right? And like with my work, like I usually I'll really only do D&D games with charity streams, right?
Okay.
So you won't usually catch me in like a longer form game. I usually only do like one shots.
Okay.
Nice.
In December, we were raising money for Doctors Without Borders, and I played a paladin as well too, because that's usually my easy go-to.
Yeah.
But I played Santa if it was his first year being Santa.
That's awesome.
Nice.
And it was so much
Yeah.
fun, right? Like he found his like sack of presents was really a bag of holding, and it was a
Oh,
ton
that's
of
cool.
fun.
Yeah, there's
to
a lot
get
of
through.
tie-ins there.
Yeah,
right? Like,
that's-
oh, that's cool.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like Santa
yeah.
0 year, but like
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Thomas.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I explained it because the DM was like, what are you trying to go for here? Because I sent him my character sheet without telling him. And David Tilstra, wonderful GM. He's the GM of Story Quest. And they're about to release their first season. So excited
awesome.
for this. But David was like, what are you trying to go for here? And I was like, have you ever read Batman Year One?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm Santa Year One. And he lost his mind. It was so like once he like connected the dots, it was so funny.
That's awesome.
That's
Yeah,
an
that's
awesome
great.
pick.
So I think that leads us into another question that I had, which is, okay, so you're talking about some of your newest characters, but how would you compare that to like some of your first characters that you created?
Oh wow, that's a really great question. I've broken into the TTRPG space in the last few years, and it has been an absolute blessing, right? It's an incredible community that's very accepting. That's very they're like built-in cheerleaders for your choices,
Yeah.
right? And I would say something that's a through line in between my older characters and my newest characters I refuse to play. Like, I will not ever play a character that isn't Filipino coded or just outright Filipino in general,
Very
right?
cool.
I'm in this really interesting position where you get to create the characters that you're on screen, right? And when you're an actor or when you're an actor or a voice actor, right? Like, those roles and those pieces are already picked for you. As opposed to when you can create a character, I just like make and like like there are times where it's like, oh, well, we're like space characters. You're an alien. Well, what's happening? Oh, okay. Well, like, instead of a planet, he comes from like an archipelago of planets, right? Or like something like that, right? And so I try to make it as Filipino or as Filipino coded
I
as
like that.
possible.
That's cool.
The differences, though, I would say, is number one is maturity, right? Because when I started this, when I was like, I started playing Dungeons and Dragons when I was like 14, right? And I've expanded to like other great tabletop RPGs. I always highly recommend that other people check out like the independent scene as well too, because there are some incredible games in that scene. And I would say number one is maturity. And I would say number two is Scott, you had mentioned this, right? You have that inclination, like, oh, I want to be bad guy, but you always turn and tend to be good.
Right.
Do you know why that is?
I think it ends up being kind of like how I naturally am. It's easier to, at least for me, it's easier to make myself like, oh, what would I do? It's so hard for me to pretend to be like an evil guy and then make those choices.
Did we just go to a therapy session?
I am a paladin.
I do this all the time. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good.
No, but the Scott, you hit the nail on the head, right? It's the idea that anytime that we play a tabletop RPG, this is a power fantasy, right? And what I've noticed from the best players is that your power fantasy is to always do good and to help others.
Wow.
Right? Your default, whenever you get nervous, whenever you don't know what to do, whenever you get anxious, is to make sure to help others. And that's the best part of these games, right? And I've definitely played a villain. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I've played some cool villains in my career so far as a TTRPG performer. But when you get down to it, you always get to play, you always like kind of default back to, I want to help someone else, or I want to give the benefit to someone. Right. So I don't know, it's why I love these games so much, right? We're built to help.
Man, that was beautiful. I feel like I'm gonna have to change my answer to like a fairy godfather then or something, because like that's who I end up becoming. Thomas, I feel like Thomas, in real life or something.
Thomas, you messed up. Like, I'm gonna plan a whole game where you get to be a druid now. Okay, like you messed up.
I'm happy about it. Yeah, invite me. I'm on board. Let's go.
Yeah, we are physically an hour and a half away from each other. Like, you cannot escape me at this point.
That's true. That is not that far. I was there last week. I have no excuse. So I think this is a perfect time, Scott. Maybe you hit him with the last question, because I think even though this is a little out of order from what we had planned, I feel like this is the right move. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah.
See, just professionals jumping around the questions, the flow of the conversation. This is perfect podcasting. Wow. I'm telling the audience now, right?
Thank you. Oh my! Stop giving us all these compliments. I'm gonna blush on camera. My face.
You're really setting me up to love this question. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna shift gears a little bit. Okay. As a pop culture educator, content creator, and the founder of Intermyth, a pop culture consultation company, what are some of the setbacks people encounter on their pop culture creation journey? And what are some basic things they can do to overcome those obstacles?
Well, it's funny.
That so good. Yeah, please, Thomas.
Sorry,
please
what I was going to say was funny was that wasn't the question I had in mind, but let's roll with it.
My bad.
I love that question. So to give you guys a bit of a background, so a few years ago I started a pop culture consultancy firm called Intermyth. I call it Intermyth because inter is in the middle of, and then myth is your story. So I am the kind of person who comes in at the middle of your story. You have decided that you wanted to put your voice out there. but you don't know where to go, right? And so my whole business model is based on the hero's journey. And if you've never seen the hero's journey before, I highly recommend looking it up. Really, it is the story of your life. I say your, as in anybody who is watching this. This is how your life will unfold, right? And so Intermyth has been an incredible blessing in order to help others put their voices out there, right?
Yeah.
Thomas knows this as well. We've like we've gotten to interact with each other at conventions. Is that a lot of my work centralizes is central to marginalized people, right? I help out a lot of LGBTQIA plus teams. I help out a lot of like BIPOC teams as well in order to get their voices out there.
Awesome.
Scott, to your question, um, the number one thing that I think stops people from creating content is they don't understand two things. Okay. They don't understand their goals and they don't understand their brands.
Yeah.
Right. And so your goal is, if you did this for free and you did this for no money, if you did this for negative money, right? If you're putting in your own money and you're not seeing any results, right? What is the thing that you want to get out of it? Okay. And that could be one answer, that could be 5 answers, it could be whatever, right? But these are going to be goals that you are going to be measuring yourself towards, because at the end of the day, when you and you both know this, right? Like, you record 100 hours in a week. Now you got to edit this stuff. It's 3 a.m. You have an episode that needs to come out.
Preach.
What's keeping you going? Right?
Yeah.
And number 2 is you don't understand your brand, right? What makes people listen to you more so than the other people that are, for lack of a better words, your competition, right? Oh, I mean, shoot, I'll go through this with you right now. Thomas, you had introduced your show. How did you introduce your show? Like, give me your tagline one more time.
Let's say aloha, everybody. Welcome to the Joystick Show, a podcast where 3 friends from high school in Hawaii get together every week to chat about the latest things we've watched, read, and played from pop culture.
Okay, so I can already pick out 3 things from here, right? Number 1 is 3 friends, right? You are building a sense of camaraderie and community, right? That's what you want to get out there for your show. Okay. Number 2 is each week you are providing consistency, right? If somebody has an awful day, okay, and when's your release? What's your usual release day?
We release regular episodes every Thursday, and then we try to do spotlight episodes whenever we have them on Tuesdays.
Great. Okay, so like every Tuesday or Thursday, somebody is like, oh, I've had a rough week. I have no idea what I'm going to be looking forward to. And then you release an episode. You are building consistency.
Yeah.
Right. And then number 3 is going to be entertainment, right? You're talking about things that you've watched, read, I'm sorry, it was watch, read, or played, right? And you keep it very specific, right? Because it's not like, oh, like, I'm here to read about sewing instructions, or I'm here to read about like a global politics, right?
Yeah.
You are here specifically to talk about the things that that let you relax and let you have fun.
Totally.
Right? So if you don't understand those things and you're not doing those things while you're on that show, you've completely lost the thread.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens to a lot of people.
Wow. Oh my gosh. You just reading that back to me, it was like, is that what we do? Oh my God.
I know, so insightful.
We're freaking great, Scott. No, I'm just kidding. No, but even you reading that back, which is amazing how you were able to break it down so quickly and to take all that in. I mean, it's so impressive. But even just hearing it back makes me want to edit some things. And I think we're missing the part in the intro where this show really should be about joy. It's about what brings us joy. And I feel like I've thought about the name a lot, and people are like, why Joystick? You guys don't always talk about video games. And it's like, that's true. But the thing about it is, like, we want to provide joy. We have joy doing it. And the shtick is our banter between each other. So or
it's joy through pop culture.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right? And talk to each other about it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And Thomas, you and I had actually met because of another piece of your brand that I think you guys are doing so well in. And Thomas, you had met a mutual friend, Derek McDuff, the Underrated Movie Podcast.
Shout out to
Shout out to
Derek.
Derek, right?
Yeah.
You had met Derek
Oh, yeah.
through Reddit threads, correct? Yeah.
Yeah. On the podcast guest
Yeah.
exchange.
So that specifically talks about, like, that connects to the three friends, right? You are building community and camaraderie, right? And so I joke about this all the time. I made two friends during college, right? Number one was Derek, who has Derek been on the show before?
Yeah,
or?
multiple times.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So number one was Derek, and then number two I married.
yeah.
so fifth. So I'm at 100% catch rate for all the friends that I made in college.
Nice. I know, which is awesome. Your wife is awesome too, and she does.
Oh,
no,
thank
she really
you.
is. And like, I remember leaving last day of WonderCon, and I was like, "Okay, bye." I was just gonna wave because she was like halfway through a door, and she's like, "You're not gonna give me a hug goodbye." I was like, "Oh yeah, I should do that, huh?" And like, she's just great. You guys like are so funny together. You guys have great banter. I see it on the welcome party, but all the panels that you did together too, like she's sharp as hell. Like I really, really think she's awesome and hilarious too, which is great.
Thomas, you and I had drunkenly spoken about. It was I remember this.
You might have to remind
we
me.
Had drunkenly, we had drunkenly talked about our wives, and it was one thing that I think we both connected on very well. Is we both married completely out of our league.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's why we are friends, because we both realized it and we both can smell it on each other,
true.
right?
That's true. Yeah, don't let her hear this, but yes.
And thank you for mentioning the welcome party as well, too, because Alex, my partner, my wife, the love of my life, right? She is the one who kickstarted my career in pop culture.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
So her and Cole, who is our other co-host on the welcome party, they both needed to start a podcast, or excuse me, they needed to start a radio show at school, and they needed to do 1 hour a week in order to basically guarantee an A in a communications course that they were both taking. Now, they both knew they grew up with each other and all that, and they both knew that if they were going to be in a booth with each other for an hour every week, they were going to kill each other.
Yeah.
And so they had asked me to be their third host. And I was like, well, I don't know. I don't like this isn't something that I really want to do. And so she had begged me to do it. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'll show up to the first episode. Let's see what we do.
Yeah.
And it was just a show to talk about pop culture. Really, it was a show for Cole and I to talk about pop culture and for Alex to make fun of us.
Right.
And we had started that show in 2009.
Wow.
We called it Geek Say What. And that radio show turned into a podcast. That podcast blew up. Once it blew up, it turned into a network of 3 shows. Then it turned into a network of 5. And at our peak, it turned into a network of 10 shows.
Wow.
And I was spearheading and producing all 10 of them.
Holy crap. Yeah, that sounds busy.
And so podcasting without the cameras, because now, we have the benefit of cameras being a little bit cheaper. But I started this just my voice and one microphone just in the middle of the room so it could catch all 3 of
Oh
our
man,
voices.
we have done that before.
Yeah.
It does not sound great.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you haven't sat in a room and recorded off of your phone, like you're
You're
never
not a
done
real
podcasting.
podcaster. Yeah, definitely. You
You've
don't
done
get
that,
it.
and that room was a car.
Yeah, true. That is true.
Oh, I gotta ask this too. Have y'all ever recorded after watching a movie? Just recorded in the
That's
car?
what we did it.
That's it. Yeah, Avatar: The Way of Water. It was right after Scott's wedding, and we all happened to be in Hawaii. And I brought my travel mic with us, and straight up, right after the movie ended, we were in Drake's rental car, set up the mic right in the middle of us, and we just chatted about the movie. I was like, "Here's our bonus episode."
Scott, I knew I was gonna like you because I could smell it off you. You're on the married up club.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
I knew we were gonna get along. I knew
I
we were
think
gonna
we're
get along.
all in the
But
club,
okay.
including Drake too. Sorry,
Yeah,
Drake,
yeah.
but for
Oh,
real.
okay. I was gonna ask that. I was gonna ask that because usually on a podcast, if it's 3 people, it's 2 people that are married and 1 person that's single.
Right. And it was that way when we
Yeah.
started,
So
but Scott has since gotten married and
hey, way to level up.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she's been on an episode and Drake's wife's been on an episode and my wife's been on an
Oh.
episode. So
Mhm.
it's like it's pretty cool. It's like definitely extended to the spouses, you know?
Working with your spouse is one of the wildest experiences,
Yeah.
right? Because like you think you know this person and then you hear them say things that you're like, you have in the years that we've been together, you have never said that to
That's
my
funny.
face.
Yeah. Like, oh, you felt that the whole time, huh? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, I owe the entirety of my career to
That's
Alex because
awesome.
she forced me to be on a podcast.
Damn.
That's crazy.
That's amazing.
Wow.
I'm happy you cleared that up because we really try to do as much research as we can. And I was digging through the profiles and like, where did this start? Like, I saw one podcast name. I'm like, when did it become the Welcome Party? When did Tabletop News? And you've really explained all of that. And it's like, dude, you've had such a amazing journey. And it's like the ability you have, the professionalism you have. It's like it's crazy to think it wouldn't have come if not for Alex, and also like the convincing of her and Cole. You know, it's like you
Oh
belong in
yeah.
this space, so it's pretty amazing that it was kind of random, so to speak, even though you definitely have earned it.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you, man. It's been a wild ride and it will continue to be a wild
Yeah.
ride.
Oh yeah, definitely. So this is the question I really thought maybe we should ask after you had talked about who you were supporting through your business Intermyth. And this was kind of maybe a heavy hitter at the end, but
Mhm.
whatever. I like really wanted to know this. And this question comes from Drake, which was as this month of May is AANHI or PI month, what does it mean to you to be a person of influence in the industry as well as somebody within AAPI?
That oh man. Please thank Drake for me for this
Yeah, he'll hear
question.
it if he listens back.
May is a really important month, right? So just like you said, it's AANHPI Heritage Month. That stands for Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Month, right?
Gee.
A lot of people will just say AAPI, but I always make sure to sneak in the NH there
Yeah.
as well, because Hawaii has a storied history of being an important piece of American history and just the history in the world in general. Right?
Totally.
This month is incredibly meaningful to me. This is the month where I try to do the most charity streams, where I can raise money for Asian-led charities as well
Yeah, that's why
too.
you're here on this show,
Um,
right?
no, but it's okay. So, I would have to say it has become even more important in the last few years, right? With quarantine and with the pandemic happening, right? Like COVID hit us all in in a lot of different ways that I mean, history still has not been able to parse out, right?
Yeah, very true.
But one of the number one things that I very much experienced during that time is the increased hate to the Asian American population,
Mhm.
right? We saw an increase in hate crimes. We saw an increase in vitriol on the internet towards our people. Like it was and honestly still is an awful time for our community, right? But it is a great time for our community because it has really given us a point in order to band together as a community.
Yeah.
And so to get to be okay, I've maybe told the story like maybe 5 times in total in my whole career in pop culture.
Wow. Yeah. Please.
I go by JPG for a very specific reason. Because I used to go by my full name in the pop culture space. And I got absolutely zero panels, leads, any like just zero opportunities.
Wow.
And something that I was thinking about during that time, because we had started Geek Say What, our very first show in 2009. And I was thinking to myself, like, I need to find a way in order to market myself to where they have to talk to me.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I had thought about was mystery, right? What if I create a mystery and then they have to ask me what this is about?
Yeah.
Because like we had talked about this with the stats and everything
Yeah.
too. Like I've invested a lot into my charisma points,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Definitely. Without a
Yeah.
doubt.
So that being said, I was like, hey, who are people in film and TV that are really just making an impact and are people are really enjoying? And at this point, oh gosh, the show New York. Oh my gosh, How I Met Your Mother.
Oh my god, dude, I love that
So
show. That's one of my
Yeah.
favorite shows.
How I Met Your
Yeah.
Mother. It's a pretty big show at the
Yeah,
time, right?
definitely.
Around that time. And How I Met Your Mother had Neil Patrick Harris on it,
Mhm.
like also known as NPH.
Oh,
And I was like,
Right.
hey,
Right.
if I went by my initials, would people reach out to me?
yeah.
So I went by my initials. And once I didn't have an ethnic name on these, like on these panel applications, on these speaking engagements, that's when I started getting hits.
Wow.
And the number one question that I always got during these interviews, during these talks with these conventions was, well, why do you go by JPG? Right? Oh, what does JPG stand for? Right? So having to I would absolutely love going by my full name, but I understand that I've built a brand and I understand that, it is a fun sort of thing to, oh hey, like what does this stand for? And if this is your in order to feel comfortable to talk to me, I would go by JPG for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Man, that's an amazing story. That's really cool. It makes a lot of sense, and yeah, it's unfortunate that, that has to be the case, but it is beautiful that you found a way to still make it work for you. Now, it
Mhm.
just makes me wonder what my excuse is and why nobody will still talk to me with a name like Thomas Craig.
Yeah.
But no, that is no, truthfully though, that is awesome, man. And
Yeah.
yeah, when I see you, when I see you at the cons or interact with people, it's like I would never guess that you have or had any inability or difficulty getting in there, but that's goes to show what you've had to overcome and what you've built upon and what skills you've had to build upon. And I think that's so impressive, man. Because yeah, I don't know, your charisma points, like I want half of that, and I'd probably be very very successful in doing what I love. So yeah, it's kudos to you.
I sincerely appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely, man. Definitely. All right, Scott, do you want to hit him with the next one? Because yeah, I don't know. That left me speechless. Your answer.
Scott, how about this,
Yeah.
man? Go off
Go off
script.
script.
Go
What are you
off script.
feeling, Scott?
Ask me whatever question you want,
You
man.
know what?
I like
Okay,
this.
so
I like it.
going back to D&D, um, this is something I did want to ask because
Mhm.
this is my first campaign I'm doing with my friends, and I am having a lot of fun, and I try to tell other people about it, and like it's kind of sometimes hard to pitch it to people, and maybe like, or maybe they're interested and they're having a hard time, like even like where would I even start? What would I, like? So is there like a place you'd recommend, or like how would one start getting into to wrap their head around it, or maybe like start playing a game? Like where would you go? Like whether is it like you watch some campaigns online, or like pick up some books and read up on it, or is there like a maybe an easier right answer to that?
I love this question because you had mentioned that I'm one of the hosts for the Welcome.
Mhm.
And the Welcome Party is specifically for introduction and to combat pop culture gate,
Perfect.
right? So like 100%, like, I love making sure that if somebody is interested in it, I want to get them in,
Yeah.
right? So I love this question. With D&D and with tabletop RPGs in
Mhm.
general, I always like to give this background. Like Dungeons and Dragons is the biggest tabletop RPG, right? But there's a cajillion other tabletop RPGs out there that might actually fit people's personalities
Maybe
better.
I'm a Cones of Dunshire player. Is that a
Very
real
much
game?
so.
It's a good Parks and Rec
Yeah, it
reference.
is.
It is a real
Is
game.
it?
It is a
Oh
real
my
game.
god,
And you
dude!
can
Okay,
buy
I
it.
was
made it a real
fully
game.
joking.
It is a real
That's
game.
amazing.
Oh god. But the number one way that I usually pitch tabletop RPGs is, have you ever played a video game where you couldn't do something you wanted to do,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so Scott, what's the last video game that you played? I'm sure you've talked about this on the show in previous episodes. What's the last video game you played?
Honestly, probably Helldivers 2.
Okay, so by the way, I'm a level 60 Helldiver,
Oh!
so I love that. We definitely need to dive
you're in the
sometime
group.
soon.
You're
okay?
in.
Yeah, you're in it.
Yeah, 100%. We're gonna need to
Yeah.
dive. Are you PS5 or are you PC? By the way,
PS5.
okay, I'm PC. So
Ooh, you almost got clipped with the
so-
PlayStation sign-in thing too.
I
But they fixed
know,
it.
bro, I
They fixed
know.
it. Yeah.
Democracy
I'm s-
won.
Yeah,
That was
Yes,
so
yeah.
exciting. Yeah.
and community.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's the most
Yeah.
important one, right?
Totally.
So you're playing Helldivers 2, right?
Mhm.
And hey, okay, well, as we know in Helldivers is that if you run off of the circular map, you're just gonna start getting bombed for trying to desert. Right? So, well, what if you're like, hey, I want to go off the map to see what else is there? You can't do that in Helldivers, right? But you can do that in a tabletop RPG. And that'll lead to a new story as long as you have a great GM,
Mhm.
right? So I would say tabletop RPGs are just like video games if you could do whatever you.
Damn,
That's a good way to pitch
sick.
it.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great way.
Uh,
That got me so fired up. Like,
Yeah.
you're telling me why can I not jump? I can only roll? That doesn't make any sense. I want to
Exactly.
jump.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly, right? Oh, I can't climb over this wall. Well, there's a stat for that in every TTRPG game, right? And so
Wow.
I would say the other thing that I would say is that if Dungeons and Dragons is not your cup of tea, there are games out there in the same vein that you're absolutely going to love, right? I'm sure you both, say for example, are huge fans of like the X-Men or Teen Titans or something like that, right? Masks a New Generation from Magpie Games is a game I highly recommend. Instead of hit points, like, hey, I have 25 hit points, right? You have 5 emotions. And if you feel all 5 emotions, you have to excuse yourself from the scene, which is basically like passing out or something like that, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So instead of like, hey, I got hit for 5 hit points, it's, hey, I got hit and now I feel angry. Or hey, I got hit and now I feel insecure in front of my team. Right? So so it's a great, interesting mechanic. Let's say you're a person who doesn't like violence, right? One of my favorite games out there from Sandy Pug Games is Monster Care Squad. Now, have you ever played Monster Hunter?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're a big Monster Hunter fan, think of the exact opposite. So in this world, there is no concept of violence. So you cannot be violent towards another person. But there are monsters out there like the monsters in Monster Hunter who are gigantic and who are hurt.
Wow.
And you are going out there with a team in order to make sure that they're not hurt anymore. So you're a team of doctors or nurses or surgeons or whatever, right? And you go out and you just heal monsters. It's so much fun. But yeah, there's a million games out there like that.
Hey, that's crazy. That last game sounded like the opposite of Pal World.
Yes.
You know, like,
100. Yes.
Pal World is like,
oh my god. Pal World made me so deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah, me too. I didn't go into it because I was like, okay, it feels like a Pokemon ripoff. But then what? I could get an AK-47 and murder them? That's like, it feels so wrong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We my friends and I had played up until probably about like level 25. And there was a point where I was like, I don't feel good anymore.
Yeah.
What have I become?
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta ask though. Okay, what's your primary in Helldivers 2? What's your primary weapon?
Let's see. I'd use the breaker a lot. I really like the breaker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not the breaker incendiary, but the
Well,
breaker.
for bugs, I just got the incendiary, so now I do use that for the terminids. But then for the longest time, it was just the breaker or the defender because I like to like run and gun.
Ooh, I like that. So the defender is the SMG.
Yeah. This is the one-handed thing.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Scott, how about you?
Yeah, I've been using the breaker, but I just got the I don't know what it's called, but it was the first group of war bonds up to the 8th page. It was that plasma one that shoots bullets that explode on impact. One of the plasma
Oh.
machine guns.
Like the scythe or something?
Well, there's a scorcher, there's the scythe, there is the eruptor, which
I
is
think it's the eruptor. It's like
ones.
blue lasers bullets almost, and they're supposed to have like explosion impact. So like you can kind of take out mechs and whatnot. But I just started picking that up. But otherwise, it's the breaker.
Gotcha. Yeah, mine used to be the breaker, but now I do the Punisher, which is like the first shotgun you can get in like the first or second page. I bought it and I never looked back. I just love the stagger on it.
Wow.
Like I joke that whenever I play games like this, I'm usually the shotgun medic.
Yeah.
So I
That's
use
usually
the
Scott.
shotgun to keep See, so I usually keep I use the stagger to keep them away from everybody else. And then I carry more stims in order to like heal other people as I go.
Oh, nice. Yeah. My secondary is normally a grenade launcher. So when waves are coming, I'm trying to like just keep it at bay a bit. But yeah.
I'm the my support weapon is the anti-tank, the expendable anti-tank.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Get them quick.
The EAT. Yeah. It's very quick. It's one shot. And it's a ton
and you get
of
one
fun.
for your buddy.
So, yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Wow,
we might as well just turn this into a Helldiver podcast at this point. No, I'm just kidding. But like
I know, right?
Easily...
Welcome to our Helldivers podcast.
Yeah. Halfway through, we're just gonna shift over to Helldivers too. But we'll end with this one because we know you're busy. And I do want to play Helldivers 2 now. All right. So we'll end with this. As a fellow content creator, what do you find most challenging in creating content consistently, as well as content that is engaging?
Oh, okay. So we're talking about consistency. We're talking about content being engaged.
Yes.
Okay. Consistency wise, the number one piece I see other people struggle with is their ability to not their ability to not calendar and to not be strict themselves, right? Because when you're creating content, especially for free, it's very easy to just be like, "Hey, I'll do that tomorrow," or "Hey, I'll do that next week," right?
I can.
But imagine saying that to say your boss at work, right? If they ask you, "Hey, do something," and you need to have it done by tomorrow, are you gonna say, whatever, I'll do it 3 weeks from now? I'll just take a break, right? No, you don't have that. You have that built-in sense of both, for lack of a better term, you have a built-in sense of fear.
Yeah.
When it comes to like, oh, hey, I'm gonna lose my job.
Right.
Well, instead of thinking about, hey, I'm gonna lose my job, think about, hey, I'm gonna lose my ability to connect with other people.
Wow.
Right? Because really, when you're doing this stuff for free, you're hoping for somebody commenting, for somebody liking a post that you, something like that, right? You're hoping for that sense of community. And if you don't post the day that you said you were going to post, well, that erodes that trust between you and the audience, right? So when you think about it, your boss is the people who want to like your stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it comes to being engaging, God, like this would take another hour on the show, right?
Yeah.
The struggle to be engaging, I think, comes as the detriment to consistency. Because let's say you're doing this every week, right? Sometimes you run out of things to talk about.
Yeah, it's almost happened a few times here. We're like, dang, this is a really light week. What do we do? Do we skip it?
Yeah, like what do we do?
Yeah.
And so, Geek Say What, which was my very first show that I did, like we, the first 20 minutes of our show was just pop culture news. And if something didn't come out within that last like 6 to 7 days
Mhm.
that we're recording in, what the heck? What are we gonna do?
Right.
Right?
Mhm.
So when it comes to being engaging, I had mentioned this before in the show, but go back to pillars, right? Go back to the things that you stand for, right? So let's say, with the joystick show, right? You go back to community and camaraderie, you go back to consistency, and you go back to entertainment, right? If you cannot think of something to say at that point, think of those three pillars and make sure that you are at least addressing one of them, if not more.
I like that. That is a really good way to look at it. And you're right. At the end of the day, we always say we love talking with each other, but we love just as much hearing from all of you. And that is so
Mhm.
true. It is, like I find it endlessly fascinating what Scott and Drake have to say about things that we're all watching together because they have completely different perspectives than me sometimes. But sometimes that random person who will comment on the TikTok video or on the Instagram, whatever, and say something about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. That's
Right.
so cool. So you're right. Yeah. If it's not for anything else, engaging with people, showing up every week because I don't know, we just keep doing it. I don't know why sometimes, but and we like to have fun with each other, I think, at the end of the day. So you're right. I think we do fall back on one of those pillars sometimes without even thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So insightful.
That was
Well,
so insightful.
dang, I feel like you made me realize so many things about the podcast that we've been doing for 2 years now that I can't even look at it the same way, which is great. JPG, you've been amazing, man. I could talk to you forever. I hope to talk to you even more at cons of the future or just on the side. We'll do dinner, we'll do drinks. Thank you so much. Why don't you tell everybody one more time where they can find you and support your work?
Oh, thank you, Scott, Thomas. Thank you so much again for having me. And please
For
tell
sure.
Drake I say hello as well.
We'll do.
Once again, I'm JPG. I am a pop culture educator and consultant. I own the pop culture consultancy firm Intermyth. So if you want to check out how you can improve your pop culture content, join us at intermyth.org. You can also find me and all of my work either in the pop culture space or in the TTRPG space for tabletop role playing. You can find me at Speaker JPG on all social.
Very nice. Very nice, man.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, Scott, I'll give you the floor, and then we're going to give the final words to JPG.
Yeah, for all the listeners out there, if you want to get on JPG's level, do yourself a favor. Mother's Day's coming up. Get yourself a comic book, give it to her, have her read it to you, and then you just level up. That's what I'm gonna do. Tell you. Thank you for coming on. I just met you, and I feel like I've known you for more than just the hour we've been speaking. Like, yeah, you're such an awesome person. So,
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So to close it out, JPG, all you need to do, and we ask all our guests to say this before I spin my mic around, is say thank you for sticking it with us.
Thank you for sticking with us.
All right. Okay. Aloha, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
The Joystick Show.
If you've enjoyed what you've been listening to, we'd really appreciate a follow, subscribe, and a review. Just how we like chatting with our friends, please share this with yours. Feel free to join the squad and follow us at JoyStickShow Joystick Show on Twitter and Instagram, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you feel like submitting topics or questions to be discussed on future episodes, you can email us at joystick.show@gmail.com. As always, thank you, peace out, and make it a great rest of your week.